The sun hung low over the small coastal village of Mombasa, Kenya, casting a golden hue over the weathered docks. Joe Harris, a fisherman in his late 40s, stood at the edge of his rickety boat, the Fisherman's Folly, staring out at the vast Indian Ocean. His face was lined with worry, and his clothes were tattered from years of hard labor. The salty breeze tousled his hair, but it did little to lift the weight on his shoulders. Joe had been fishing these waters for over 20 years, but lately, the sea had turned cruel. The fish had vanished, and with them, his livelihood. Bills piled up on the kitchen table like a mountain of despair, and the tension in his home was palpable. His wife, Mary, had grown weary of their struggles, and their teenage son, Sam, had taken to avoiding him altogether. "Dad, can't you catch anything?" Sam had snapped the other day, his frustration boiling over. "Everyone at school thinks we're poor because of you." Joe had felt the sting of those words deep in his heart. He was trying, but the ocean had betrayed him. One fateful morning, Joe set out on his boat, determined to find something, anything, that could turn his luck around. He cast his nets into the water, but they came up empty, as they had for weeks. Frustrated, he decided to dive down and check the nets himself. As he plunged into the cool depths, he felt a sense of freedom, if only for a moment. The water enveloped him, and he swam deeper, searching for his nets. But as he swam, something caught his eye, a glimmering light beneath the sand. Curiosity piqued, Joe swam closer. To his astonishment, he discovered a mountain of gold coins, shimmering like stars in the ocean's embrace. His heart raced as he realized the magnitude of his find. Gold, he thought, his mind racing with possibilities. This could change everything. Joe resurfaced, gasping for air, his mind spinning with excitement. He hurried back to the boat, his heart pounding. He had to tell Mary and Sam. They would finally see that he wasn't a failure. "Mary! Sam!" he shouted as he burst through the door of their modest home, dripping wet and wild-eyed. "What is it, Joe?" Mary asked, her voice laced with skepticism. "I found gold. A mountain of it under the sea," he exclaimed, his excitement palpable. Mary exchanged a glance with Sam, who rolled his eyes. "Dad, not this again. You're just tired and delusional." "No, I'm serious. I can show you," Joe pleaded, desperation creeping into his voice. But their disbelief stung. Joe felt the weight of their doubt pressing down on him. He needed to prove it, to show them that he wasn't just a washed-up fisherman. Determined to gather support, Joe headed to the local pub, a lively place filled with laughter and chatter. The walls were adorned with fishing nets and photographs of the village's proudest catches. He climbed onto a table, his heart racing as he prepared to share his discovery. "Everyone, listen up," he shouted, trying to capture their attention. "I found gold in the ocean." Laughter erupted from the crowd. "Gold? More like fool's gold," one man shouted, slapping his knee. "Get off the table, Joe. You're embarrassing yourself," another chimed in. Joe's face flushed with humiliation. He hopped down, defeated. The townsfolk had always looked down on him, but this was different. This was his chance to prove them wrong, and they had laughed in his face. Feeling crushed, Joe returned to his boat, the weight of the world on his shoulders. He couldn't give up. He had to retrieve the gold himself. He spent the next few days preparing, gathering supplies and devising a plan to dive down and bring back as much gold as he could. With each dive, he faced challenges. The currents were strong, and the water was murky. He struggled to fill his nets, but he was determined. Each time he resurfaced, he brought back a few coins, but it was never enough. As he worked tirelessly, he began to notice something strange. The more gold he brought back, the more the townsfolk whispered about him. They watched him with a mix of curiosity and skepticism, but he could feel their eyes on him, waiting for him to fail. One evening, after a long day of diving, Joe returned home, his hands full of gold coins. He laid them out on the kitchen table, the glimmering metal catching the light. Mary and Sam entered, their eyes widening in disbelief. "Joe, is this real?" Mary asked, her voice trembling. "It is. I told you. I found a mountain of gold," Joe exclaimed, his heart swelling with pride. Sam picked up a coin, turning it over in his hand. "You really did it, Dad. This is amazing." For the first time in months, Joe felt a flicker of hope. They could pay off their debts, buy a new boat, and finally live without the constant weight of financial worry. With newfound determination, Joe decided to return to the pub, this time with a bag full of gold coins. He walked in, the bag slung over his shoulder, and the chatter died down as the townsfolk turned to look at him. "Joe," one of them asked, incredulous. "What's going on?" Joe placed the bag on the bar and opened it, spilling coins across the surface. "I found this in the ocean. I'm not a joke anymore." Gasps filled the room, and the laughter that once mocked him turned into applause. The townsfolk gathered around, eyes wide with amazement. "Joe, you're a legend," someone shouted, and the crowd erupted in cheers. With the town's support, Joe organized a community effort to help him retrieve the rest of the gold. Fishermen, once skeptical, now rallied behind him, eager to lend a hand. They worked together, diving into the ocean, bringing back treasure after treasure. As the days turned into weeks, Joe's fortune grew, and so did his relationships with the townsfolk. They shared stories, laughter, and camaraderie, and Joe felt a sense of belonging he hadn't experienced in years. Back at home, Joe's family thrived. Mary's worries faded as they paid off their debts, and Sam's attitude shifted as he proudly told his friends about his father's incredible discovery. The tension that once filled their home was replaced with laughter and love. One evening, as they sat around the dinner table, Joe raised a glass. "To new beginnings," he declared, his heart full. "To Dad." Sam cheered, and Mary smiled, her eyes glistening with tears of joy. As the seasons changed, Joe continued to dive for gold, but he also began to invest in the community. He helped rebuild the docks, supported local businesses, and even started a fishing school for young aspiring fishermen. The village of Mombasa transformed, becoming a vibrant hub of activity and prosperity. Joe was no longer just a fisherman, he was a pillar of the community, respected and loved by all. Years later, as Joe stood on the docks, watching the sunset paint the sky in hues of orange and pink, he reflected on his journey. The struggles, the laughter, the friendships, it all led him to this moment. He turned to see Mary and Sam approaching, their faces lit with joy. "Look, Dad. We caught a big one," Sam shouted, holding up a fish that sparkled in the fading light. Joe smiled, his heart swelling with pride. "That's my boy," he replied, knowing that no matter the challenges they faced, they would always have each other and the sea. As the village of Mombasa flourished, the annual Festival of the Sea approached, a celebration of the ocean's bounty and the community's resilience. Joe, now a local hero, was tasked with organizing the event. He envisioned a grand festival that would not only honor the sea but also bring the community together in a way they had never experienced before. The preparations began weeks in advance. Colorful banners were hung, stalls were set up, and the aroma of traditional Kenyan dishes filled the air. Joe worked alongside his neighbors, sharing stories and laughter as they decorated the village. The excitement was palpable, and for the first time in years, Joe felt a sense of purpose beyond just fishing. On the day of the festival, the village was alive with music and dance. Children ran around with painted faces, and the sound of drums echoed through the streets. Joe stood at the center of it all, beaming with pride as he watched his family and friends celebrate. Just as the festivities reached their peak, a commotion arose at the entrance of the village. A group of tourists, drawn by the vibrant atmosphere, arrived, led by a charismatic travel blogger named Lucy. She was known for her adventurous spirit and had a large following on social media. "Wow! This place is incredible!" Lucy exclaimed, her eyes wide with wonder. She approached Joe, who was still in disbelief at the unexpected attention. "I've heard about your story. The fisherman who found gold. Can I interview you for my blog?" Joe hesitated, feeling a mix of pride and humility. "I'm just a fisherman, really. The gold was just a stroke of luck. But it's more than that. You've transformed your community. This is a story of hope." Lucy insisted, her enthusiasm infectious. With Lucy's encouragement, Joe agreed to share his story. As they sat down for the interview, he spoke candidly about his struggles. The discovery of the gold, and how it had changed not just his life but the lives of everyone in Mombasa. The interview was a hit. Lucy's followers were captivated by Joe's journey, and soon, the village was flooded with visitors eager to experience the charm of Mombasa and its newfound prosperity. Local businesses thrived, and the fishermen found themselves with more customers than ever. However, with the influx of tourists came new challenges. Some villagers worried that the essence of their community was being lost amidst the commercialization. Joe found himself caught in the middle, trying to balance the needs of the tourist with the desires of his neighbors. One evening, during a community meeting, tensions flared. "We can't let them take over our village," one elder shouted. "This is our home, not a theme park." Joe stood up, feeling the weight of their concerns. "I understand your fears, but we have an opportunity here. We can share our culture and traditions without losing what makes Mombasa special. Let's work together to find a balance." Inspired by Joe's words, the villagers began to brainstorm ways to celebrate their culture while welcoming visitors. They organized cultural performances, traditional cooking classes, and guided fishing tours that showcased their way of life. The festival became a symbol of unity, where locals and tourists mingled, sharing stories and experiences. Joe watched as his village thrived, not just economically but also culturally. The laughter and joy that filled the air reminded him of the true spirit of Mombasa. As the years passed, Joe's family continued to grow. Sam, now a young man, had taken an interest in the family business, eager to learn the ways of fishing and community leadership. Mary had become a beloved figure in the village, known for her delicious dishes and warm hospitality. One evening, as they gathered for dinner, Joe looked around the table, filled with love and laughter. "I never imagined my life would turn out this way," he said, his voice filled with emotion. "We've built something beautiful together." Mary smiled, her eyes sparkling. "It's not just the gold, Joe. It's the connections we've made, the love we've shared, and the community we've built." Years later, as Joe stood on the docks, watching the sun dip below the horizon, he reflected on the journey that had brought him here. The struggles, the laughter, the friendships, it all led him to this moment of fulfillment. He turned to see Sam approaching, a fishing rod in hand. "Dad, let's go catch dinner." Sam called out, his excitement contagious. Joe smiled, knowing that the legacy of the fisherman would continue through his son. "That's my boy," he replied, feeling a sense of pride swell within him. Together, they set out onto the shimmering waters of the Indian Ocean, ready to embrace whatever adventures awaited them. The sea, once a source of despair, had become a symbol of hope and resilience, binding their family and community together in ways they had never imagined. As they cast their lines into the water, Joe felt a deep connection to the ocean and the life it sustained. He knew that no matter the challenges they faced, they would always have each other, their love for the sea, and the spirit of Mombasa guiding them forward. The sun dipped lower, painting the sky in vibrant hues, a perfect backdrop for the new As the years rolled on, the village of Mombasa continued to thrive, but Joe felt a familiar tug at his heart. The ocean had always been more than just a source of livelihood, it was a calling. One evening, while sitting on the dock with Sam, he shared his thoughts. "Sam, do you ever wonder what lies beyond the horizon?" Joe asked, gazing out at the endless expanse of water. Sam nodded, his eyes sparkling with curiosity. "All the time, Dad. I want to explore, to see what's out there." Joe smiled, remembering his own youthful dreams of adventure. "Maybe it's time we take a journey together. Just you and me." With the blessing of Mary and the support of the community, Joe and Sam set out on a small expedition to explore the nearby islands. They packed their boat with supplies, fishing gear, and a sense of adventure. As they sailed away from the familiar shores of Mombasa, the first island they visited was a hidden gem, untouched by tourists. They spent their days fishing, exploring the lush landscapes, and learning about the local wildlife. Each night, they gathered around the campfire, sharing stories and dreams under the starlit sky. "Dad, this is amazing. I can't believe we've never done this before," Sam exclaimed one evening, his face illuminated by the firelight. Joe chuckled, feeling a sense of fulfillment. Sometimes, you have to step away from what you know to truly appreciate it. However, their adventure took an unexpected turn when a sudden storm rolled in. Dark clouds gathered, and the winds howled as they struggled to navigate their boat back to safety. Joe's heart raced as he fought against the waves, determined to protect his son. "Hold on tight, Sam," he shouted over the roar of the storm. As they battled the elements, Joe's thoughts raced. He couldn't let fear take over, he had to be strong for Sam. With every ounce of strength, he steered the boat, finally finding shelter in a small cove. Once the storm passed, Joe and Sam emerged from the cove, shaken but safe. They looked around at the aftermath, the ocean now calm and serene. "Dad, that was scary," Sam admitted, his voice trembling slightly. Joe placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "It was, but we made it through together. That's what matters." As they sailed back to Mombasa, Joe realized that this journey had not only strengthened their bond but had also reminded him of the resilience they both shared. Back in Mombasa, the villagers welcomed them with open arms, eager to hear about their adventure. Joe shared tales of the storm, the beauty of the islands, and the lessons learned along the way. Inspired by their journey, the community decided to organize a new initiative, an annual exploration festival that would encourage families to venture out and discover the wonders of the ocean. "Let's celebrate our connection to the sea and the adventures it holds," Joe proposed during a village meeting. The idea was met with enthusiasm, and soon, plans were underway for the first exploration festival. Families began to prepare for their own adventures, and the spirit of exploration ignited a new sense of community. The day of the festival arrived, filled with excitement and anticipation. Colorful boats lined the shore, each decorated with vibrant flags and symbols of the sea. Families gathered to share their stories, and the air buzzed with laughter and joy. Joe and Sam led a group of children on a small boat, teaching them about fishing techniques and the importance of respecting the ocean. As they cast their lines, the children's laughter echoed across the water, a sound that warmed Joe's heart. "Look, Dad! I caught one!" Sam shouted, reeling in a small fish, his face beaming with pride. "That's my boy!" Joe cheered, feeling a sense of fulfillment wash over him. As the sun set on the festival, Joe stood on the dock, watching the community come together in celebration. He felt a deep sense of gratitude for the journey that had brought them all here. The struggles, the laughter, the adventures, they had woven a tapestry of resilience and love. "Dad, can we go on more adventures?" Sam asked, his eyes shining with excitement. Joe smiled, knowing that this was just the beginning. "Absolutely, Sam. The world is full of wonders waiting for us to discover." Years later, as Joe watched Sam prepare for his own journey, he felt a mix of pride and nostalgia. Sam had grown into a young man, ready to explore the world beyond Mombasa. Joe remembered his own youthful dreams and the adventures they had shared. "Dad, I'm going to sail to the islands we visited," Sam announced, packing his gear with determination. "I want to document everything and share our story with others." Joe's heart swelled with pride. "You've learned well, my son. Just remember to respect the sea and cherish the connections you make along the way." As Sam set sail, Joe stood on the shore, watching the boat disappear into the horizon. He knew that the spirit of adventure would continue to thrive in their family, just as it had in the village. The ocean, once a source of struggle, had become a symbol of hope, resilience, and endless possibilities. With a smile, Joe turned back to the village, ready to share his son's journey with the community. The legacy of the fisherman would live on, not just in tales of gold and treasure, but in the hearts of those who dare to dream and explore the vast, beautiful world around them. Months passed, and the village buzzed with excitement as Sam returned from his journey. He had documented his adventures, capturing the beauty of the islands and the stories of the people he met along the way. The villagers gathered at the dock, eager to hear about his experiences. "Welcome back, Sam," Joe called out, his heart swelling with pride as he embraced his son. "Tell us everything." Sam grinned, holding up a beautifully crafted book filled with photographs and sketches. "I've created a journal of my travels. I want to share the stories of our people and the beauty of our ocean with everyone." The crowd erupted in cheers, and Sam began to recount his adventures, his voice animated as he described the vibrant marine life, the warm hospitality of the islanders, and the lessons he learned about conservation and respect for the ocean. Inspired by Sam's journey, Joe and the villagers decided to take action. They organized a community meeting to discuss how they could protect their ocean and promote sustainable fishing practices. "We've seen the beauty of our waters, but we must also protect it for future generations," Joe urged, his voice filled with passion. "Let's work together to ensure that our ocean remains a source of life and prosperity." The villagers rallied behind Joe's vision, and soon, they established a local conservation group dedicated to preserving the marine ecosystem. They organized beach cleanups, educational workshops, and initiatives to promote responsible fishing. As the conservation efforts gained momentum, the village of Mombasa became a model for sustainable fishing practices in the region. Other coastal communities began to take notice, and soon, Joe and Sam were invited to share their story at regional conferences. "Your village has shown that it's possible to thrive while respecting the ocean," a fellow fisherman from a neighboring village remarked. "We want to learn from you." Joe and Sam traveled to different villages, sharing their experiences and encouraging others to adopt sustainable practices. The ripple effect of their efforts spread far and wide, creating a network of communities committed to protecting their marine resources. To celebrate their achievements, the village organized a grand festival dedicated to the ocean and its preservation. The event featured local artisans, traditional music, and delicious food, all highlighting the rich culture of Mombasa. As the sun set, Joe stood on the stage, looking out at the crowd. "Tonight, we celebrate not just our connection to the sea, but our commitment to protecting it for generations to come," he declared, his heart full. The villagers cheered, and Sam took the stage to present his journal, sharing stories of their journey and the importance of conservation. The audience listened intently, inspired by the passion and dedication of their community. As the festival continued, Joe reflected on how far they had come. The struggles of the past had transformed into a legacy of hope and resilience. The ocean, once a source of despair, had become a symbol of unity and purpose. "Dad, look at everyone coming together," Sam said, his eyes shining with pride. "We've made a difference." Joe nodded, feeling a deep sense of fulfillment. "Yes, we have. And it's just the beginning." Years later, as Joe watched Sam prepare to lead a new generation of fishermen, he felt a sense of peace. The village had flourished, and the ocean thrived under their care. Sam had become a respected leader, guiding others in sustainable practices and inspiring young people to cherish their heritage. "Dad, I want to take the kids on an expedition to teach them about the ocean," Sam said one morning, excitement bubbling in his voice. Joe smiled, knowing that the spirit of adventure would continue to thrive in their family. "That sounds wonderful, Sam. Just remember to share the lessons we've learned." As Sam set out with the children, Joe stood on the shore, watching the boat sail into the horizon. He knew that the legacy of the fisherman would live on, not just in tales of gold and treasure, but in the hearts of those who dared to dream, explore, and protect the beautiful ocean that had given them so much. With a heart full of gratitude, Joe turned back to the village, ready to share the next chapter of their journey. The ocean, once a source of struggle, had become a symbol of hope, resilience, and endless possibilities for generations to come. As the years rolled on, the village of Mombasa continued to thrive, and the legacy of Joe and Sam inspired a new generation of fishermen and environmental stewards. The children who had participated in the expeditions grew up with a deep respect for the ocean and a passion for preserving their culture. One day, a group of young girls approached Joe, their eyes sparkling with excitement. "Mr. Harris, we want to start a fishing club. Can you help us?" one of them asked, her voice filled with determination. Joe's heart swelled with pride. "Of course. What do you have in mind?" The girls explained their vision of a club that would not only teach fishing techniques but also focus on conservation and community service. They wanted to organize beach cleanups, educational workshops, and even a mentorship program for younger children. With Joe's guidance, the girls launched the Mombasa Young Fisherwomen's Club. They held their first meeting at the community center, where they brainstormed ideas and set goals for their initiatives. Joe watched as their enthusiasm ignited a spark in the community, drawing in more children eager to join. "Let's plan our first beach cleanup," one girl suggested, and the room erupted in cheers. As the club grew, they began to organize events that brought the community together. Joe was amazed at how the younger generation was taking charge, embodying the values of sustainability and teamwork that he and Sam had instilled in them. However, as the club flourished, the village faced a new challenge. Reports of illegal fishing practices began to surface, threatening the delicate balance of their marine ecosystem. Joe knew they had to act quickly to protect their waters. "Sam, we need to address this issue before it escalates," Joe said one evening, concern etched on his face. "The future of our ocean depends on it." Sam nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. "Let's gather the club and the community to discuss how we can combat this together." The following week, Joe, Sam, and the young fisherwomen organized a community meeting to raise awareness about the illegal fishing practices. They invited local leaders, fishermen, and concerned citizens to join the discussion. "Together, we can make a difference," Joe urged the crowd. "We need to protect our ocean for the sake of our children and future generations." The villagers rallied behind Joe's call to action, and they formed a task force dedicated to monitoring the waters and reporting illegal activities. The young fisherwomen took the lead, organizing patrols and educating others about the importance of sustainable fishing. As the task force began to make progress, the village of Mombasa united in their efforts. They held workshops to teach sustainable fishing practices, and the young fisherwomen became role models for their peers. The community's commitment to protecting their ocean grew stronger, and the illegal fishing practices began to decline. One evening, as Joe watched the sunset from the dock, he felt a sense of hope. The ocean, once a source of struggle, had become a symbol of resilience and unity. "Dad, we are making a real impact," Sam said, joining him at the dock. "I'm proud of what we've accomplished." Joe smiled, knowing that the legacy of their efforts would continue to inspire future generations. To celebrate their achievements, the village organized a festival dedicated to ocean conservation. The event featured local artists, traditional music, and educational booths showcasing the importance of protecting marine life. As the festival unfolded, Joe and Sam took the stage to share their journey and the impact of the Young Fisherwomen's Club. The crowd listened intently, inspired by the passion and dedication of the community. Together, we've shown that we can protect our ocean and thrive as a community, Joe declared, his heart full of pride. The villagers erupted in applause, and the young fisherwomen beamed with joy, knowing their hard work had made a difference. As the years passed, the village of Mombasa continued to flourish, and the Young Fisherwomen's Club became a cornerstone of the community. Together, we've shown that we can protect our ocean and thrive as a community, Joe declared, his heart full of pride. The villagers erupted in applause, and the young fisherwomen beamed with joy, knowing their hard work had made a difference. As the years passed, the village of Mombasa continued to flourish, and the Young Fisherwomen's Club became a cornerstone of the community. Joe and Sam watched as the next generation took charge, leading initiatives that honored their heritage and protected the ocean. One day, as Joe sat on the dock, he reflected on the journey that had brought them here. The struggles, the laughter, the friendships, it all led to a legacy of love and hope. "Dad, I want to keep this going," Sam said, determination in his voice. "I want to inspire even more kids to love the ocean and protect it." Joe smiled, knowing that the spirit of adventure and stewardship would continue to thrive in their family. "You will, Sam. You have the heart of a true fisherman and a leader. Just remember to always listen to the ocean and the stories it has to tell." As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow over the water, Joe felt a deep sense of fulfillment. The ocean, once a source of despair, had transformed into a symbol of hope, resilience, and endless possibilities for their community. With a renewed sense of purpose, Sam began to plan for the future, envisioning new adventures and initiatives that would further strengthen their bond with the sea. He gathered the young fisherwomen and other children, sharing his dreams of expanding their efforts to include marine education programs in local schools. The idea of creating an oceans classroom quickly gained traction. The young fisherwomen, along with Joe and Sam, approached local schools to propose a curriculum that would teach children about marine life, conservation, and the importance of sustainable fishing practices. "Imagine if every child in Mombasa learned to respect and care for the ocean," Sam said during a presentation at the school board meeting. "We can inspire a new generation of ocean stewards." The school board was impressed by their passion and agreed to pilot the program. Soon, classes were held on the beach, where children learned about the diverse marine ecosystem, participated in hands-on activities, and even went on field trips to explore the coral reefs. As the oceans classroom flourished, the village of Mombasa became known for its commitment to marine education and conservation. Families began to see the ocean not just as a source of livelihood but as a vital part of their identity and heritage. Joe watched with pride as Sam and the young fisherwomen led the classes, sharing their knowledge and love for the sea. The children's enthusiasm was infectious, and the community rallied around the initiative, volunteering their time and resources to support the program. "Dad, look at how many kids are joining us," Sam exclaimed one day, beaming with joy as they prepared for a beach cleanup with the students. "It's incredible, Sam. You're making a real difference," Joe replied, feeling a sense of fulfillment wash over him. As the oceans classroom gained recognition, neighboring villages began to take notice. They reached out to Joe and Sam, eager to learn from their success and implement similar programs in their own communities. "Let's host a regional conference to share our experiences and strategies," one village leader suggested during a meeting. "Together, we can create a network of ocean stewards across the region." Excited by the idea, Joe and Sam began planning the conference, inviting speakers, educators, and community leaders to share their insights on marine conservation and sustainable practices. The day of the conference arrived, and the village of Mombasa was buzzing with energy. Representatives from various coastal communities gathered to share their stories and learn from one another. Joe and Sam took the stage, sharing their journey and the impact of the ocean's classroom. Together, we can protect our ocean and ensure a sustainable future for our children, Joe declared, his voice filled with passion. The audience erupted in applause, inspired by the message of unity and hope. As the conference continued, ideas flowed freely, and collaborations began to form, creating a network of communities dedicated to ocean stewardship. As the years passed, the ripple effect of their efforts transformed the region. The Ocean's Classroom expanded, reaching more children and communities, and the commitment to marine conservation grew stronger. Joe and Sam watched as the next generation of ocean stewards emerged, passionate about protecting their heritage and the environment. The village of Mombasa became a beacon of hope, inspiring others to embrace sustainable practices and cherish the ocean. One evening, as Joe sat on the dock, he reflected on the journey that had brought them here. The struggles, the laughter, the friendships, it all led to a legacy of love, hope, and resilience. "Dad, we did it," Sam said, joining him at the dock. "We've created something beautiful." Joe smiled, knowing that the spirit of adventure and stewardship would continue to thrive in their family and community. "Yes, we have, Sam. And it's just the beginning." As the sun set over the horizon, casting a golden glow over the water, Joe felt a deep sense of gratitude for the ocean and the life it had given them. The legacy of the fisherman would live on, not just in tales of gold and treasure, but in the hearts of those who dared to dream, explore, and protect the beautiful ocean that had given them so much.